All right, AI and the Future of Medical Writing. This lecture is directly from my AIMWE course. You can check it out here at aimwecourse.com. Delve more into AI. This particular lecture is very relevant to a general overview about the impact of AI on the future of medical writing. And I think somewhere in this lecture, let's see, it talks about a tree of thought prompt, which is a special type of prompt that you can do. And I use it to solve the question of how medical writers should up their skills. So don't worry about the methodology for that. That is covered in the AIMWE course, but you can just go along with it to see about how to look at the impact of AI in medical writing. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about AI and the future of medical writing and really work in general, especially the kind of work that is knowledge-based. These are the accountants, the lawyers, the medical writers. So anybody sitting at a laptop using their brain and being able to do things just with their knowledge and their expertise. So we have to really look at this and predict how things are going to go. This right here is from McKinsey, and it estimates by the year 2030 that about 30% of hours worked today could be automated due to generative AI, 30%. And the graph provides a sector-by-sector breakdown of this automated adoption. For STEM professionals, science, technology, engineering, and math, this acceleration is profound. So there'll be a 16 percentage point increase in automation adoption when generative AI is considered. And then education and workforce training, as well as creatives and arts management follows closely, each with a 15 percentage point acceleration. Conversely, sectors like agriculture and health aides, these ones at the bottom, technicians see the least acceleration with only a 3 to 4 percentage point increase. And across all sectors, the acceleration averages about 8 percentage points. Right, so that just gives you an idea of how it's really dramatically going to affect our workplace and our economy. I'm not sure how it will affect the economy, but it'll affect the way we do our jobs. That is for sure. So when you try to imagine the new world of work, it's really difficult. And this is actually very interesting from the World Economic Forum. And it says that if you're a farm worker 120 years ago, you had company, right? So you had about 75% of all people at the time were involved in sort of agricultural and farm laboring roles. And it wouldn't have been possible for you to imagine what it's like today, where only less than 5% of people are involved in agriculture. And then even 20 years ago, economists wouldn't have predicted that there would be 800,000 personal trainers, one on every block, employed in the US today, and 2.5 million jobs in just the app development industry. So these are all changes that have happened in the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. So it's possible that we're experiencing the same difficulty today in trying to imagine new and unknown jobs of the future. And we can't see into the future, and we sort of have to shift our perspective on the potential for creation of new jobs by asking broader questions. Now, this is all great to think about, that there'll be new jobs, but what about our job as medical writers, right? Are we still relevant? What is going to happen to us? I mean, there might be a whole bunch of new jobs, but we won't be able to do them because we don't know how, right? So that is the consideration here. So when you think of human versus artificial intelligence, the way things are being hyped right now, we're thinking, well, artificial intelligence can just take over the world. And who knows what's going to happen in 10, 20, 50 years. But right now, as it stands, there is a difference between what artificial intelligence and a human intelligence is. So humans, we have creativity, originality, we have emotion and empathy, the ability to comprehend and interpret information in a way that artificial intelligence does not have at this point. We have morals and ethics, hopefully, And we have self-awareness, and we have ability to solve problems in a way that artificial intelligence, or certainly generative AI, cannot do. When it comes to artificial intelligence, obviously content generation, the way that generative AI or ChatGPT, any of the chatbots, they just put out information and type text faster than humans can do. And yeah, so they've got that on us. Pattern recognition. You can upload a spreadsheet into ChatGPT and have it put out different insights within minutes that humans would take a long time or couldn't even do. They have the ability to perform data processing, synthesizing information, and they're pretty much tireless and they don't have attitude. So far as I've seen. And I sometimes wonder if I'm at some point going to get a response like, enough already. But they haven't done that to me yet. So those are the differences, right? And when you think of earning a living, the truth is, if you believe in capitalism or whatever, free market enterprise, you're probably going to believe that income goes to the value provided. Now, I'm not talking the kind of value that all human beings have, no matter what, and that's sort of their intrinsic value, no matter what your religious beliefs, everybody has value. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the type of value that your employer or your client will pay you for. And when you don't provide that value, then they're not going to pay you. So it's all very, it's the economy of having a job or having a client, right? So income goes to the value provided. And some people get lots of money for what they do. Medical writers have traditionally made a very good hourly rates and no problem in making six figures, most of us, because we've provided a lot of value. So when you think about the role of medical writers and editors from sort of a historical aspect to current times to the future, so if you think about pre-internet, frankly, my mind can't go there. Like, I don't think they had medical writers back before the internet, did they? I don't know. They had science writers that would write books that were published by big publishing houses, but they didn't have the traditional role that we do today. And imatinib, marketed as Gleevec in the United States, was the first drug approved by the FDA that was targeted towards a cancer. And that was in 2001. So that was like right when I graduated. So I went into medical writing. And just last year, there were 55 drug approvals, most of which were targeted therapies. There was even the first gene editing CRISPR-9 drug for sickle cell therapy ever, Casgevy, that was approved in December 2023. So a whole brand new slew of drugs coming up that will perform gene editing. And the way those work, a dose of Casgevy effectively cures sickle cell disease. So it is remarkable what's going on in medicine. So we need medical writers to write about all these things. And so that's great. Post-internet, that's where we are now. So you have about traditionally until, and I'm talking pre-generative AI, traditionally you have medical writers with their brains, and we can apply 30% of what humans bring to the task, and 70% has been the routine tasks of medical writing. So it would take us at least 50 hours to write a decent manuscript first draft, and so we would be paid $5,000 or more. But as post-gen AI, generative AI has come in, what I see happening is that you're going to effectively have a shift. And a lot of this routine work of creating a manuscript, for example, is going to shrink. All right. So what happens to what we get paid? Clients aren't going to want to pay $5,000 for something that only takes 10, 20 hours. So what we need to think about doing as medical writers is take this part that used to be 30% and we need to sort of make it 70%. So we need to think about delivering value to our clients in terms of strategic thinking to solve their problems. The first step is to get this so that the writing part's only 30% of what we do. All right. And then the second part is to think about the solutions that we can provide to our clients. And this is quite scary because, some people aren't going to be able to do this as well as others. There's different levels and forms of intelligence. And there's no judgment in any of that. But if you're the kind of person that gets a project and you do what's required, you write the manuscript, but you don't really think about what your client needs or the greater picture or how you can help your clients, then that's going to be maybe a difficult thing. All right. And so that's what we have to think about. So I thought, well, we have this problem here that our job is shrinking. The manual part of our job is shrinking at least. And so I put it into chat. Actually, I used Claude this time. And you may have seen in the prompt section, the tree of thought prompt. All right. So where you input your problem, you come up with, in this case, it's a different prompt. So I'm not going to use that, but come up with 3 solutions, basically. The third prompt is to evaluate and rank the solutions. The fourth prompt is to exclude the 2 lower ranking ideas and keep the winning one. And then prompt 5 is if you want to iterate the process and brainstorm new ideas to compete with the winning idea. All right. If you need a refresher in that, just go back to the lesson on prompts. So anyway, I put this prompt into Claude. I said, your task is to act as a futurist economist and help the users solve their problem. And then my problem is I am a medical writer and I am concerned that Gen AI is going to decrease the amount of work available and possibly eliminate my job. What would be some suitable strategies to help mitigate these risks and future-proof my career? All right. And I was very eagerly awaiting the response to that. So it came out with some suggestions. Embrace AI as a tool, develop specialized experience, cultivate soft skills, continuous learning and upskilling, diversify your skill set, and explore new business models. The next prompt is, could you brainstorm 3 distinct solutions? Please consider the 3 most important factors that will have an impact on the outcome. So solution 1, without reading out the slide, solution 1 is embrace AI and upskill, which you're doing now by taking this course. Solution 2, specialize and establish thought leadership. Get a depth of knowledge in a specific area or regulatory domain. So instead of being a medical writing generalist, how about becoming just a specialist and someone that writes about AI or even, the gene therapies, really, or CAR T or bispecific antibodies? Pick an area where you can just really dive in deep, right? So instead of being generalists, we need to increasingly become specialists. And then solution 3, diversify and expand into adjacent roles. So maybe learn a little bit of bioinformatics or AI or machine learning or whatever it is that intrigues you, or ethics in AI, and diversify into those roles. So those are your 3 solutions. And so I said for the 3 solutions, evaluate their potential, consider the pros and cons, blah, 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 so you can read the slide. And that's the same prompt that I used in the example on tree of thought. So the summary was that these 3 solutions, so solution 2 at 70%, specialize and establish thought leadership, was the solution that seemed to have the greatest probability of success. You can actually go to the platform and look at the report on this, and it gives you a lot more in-depth insight into this summary right here. All right, and then the final prompt, remove the 2 lowest ranked ideas and write a summary of the highest ranked idea, including the ranking and some suggestions for next steps. So the one that was the highest ranked, specialize and establish thought leadership, differentiation, professional reputation, build a network, and job security and demand, increased value to employers, and higher compensation potential. So there's that word again, value to employers, right? So we just really have to think about how our ability to type things in is not valuable anymore. It was what we did. We had 30%, 70%, and now it's flipped. And so we absolutely need to bring up that value that we provide to our clients to 70%. So the next steps, identify your niche. How can you specialize and drill down into medicine and what you can provide as a writer? Your learning plan. So you want to think about more formal education, certifications, conferences, mentorships, professional networks, engaging with associations, thought leadership, and continuous learning, always. So it's not getting any easier, but I think the solution to this is just to drill down and become more specialized as medical writers. So instead of being a generalist, we're just going to become more niche in our topics, and there will be enough work for everybody. The positive side of it is that it's made our job, less drudgery that we have to engage in. We still have to think creatively about how to best present the information, but the tedious part of it is, is becoming less important. I think we will still have the 30% of our jobs that is the, the manual part of it. So, what is your plan? I really want you to think about this for yourself, because if you do nothing, you've done a lot by taking this course and whatever other courses you're taking on this topic. But you need to have a plan, and you need to start thinking about, like, how is your job going to change in the next year or even in the next 5 years, if you can really think about which direction you want to go.